Hey guys, in this video you're going to be checking out the BWHOOP B05 from Boldclash. It's being advertised as the world's lightest bind-and-fly brushless FPV drone. So let's take a look at what we got in the box here. It's a pretty nice box. So we got an instruction manual, get the drone itself here, we'll set that aside. Get a LiPo here, this is a 1S 350 and 25C. USB charger for the LiPo. Got some spare props and some extra screws, and it looks like these are soft mounts for the motors and little rubber O-rings. I'm not sure what those are for. And it looks like these are rubber bands for holding on the LiPo. That's the lens cap for the camera. This manual is actually really good. Give you guys a quick look here. You can fast forward through the video if you want to pass up this section. Shows everything that comes in there. A little breakdown of the parts in the drone. There's some specs. Little instructions on how to charge the battery. Some instructions on how to use the all-in-one FPV camera and VTX along with your channel maps. The flight controller in there is the Tiny Fish, and it's a FreeSky, built-in FreeSky receiver, so it shows you how to bind it and what to do on your Tyrannus to get it working, and then also shows you what to do in Betaflight configurator. So this is a really good manual. Shows your modes. Okay, so we'll take a closer look at the drone itself. It's a 1S brushless. It's based on the 0703 motors here, and I'm not sure if that's going to come out in the video. 15,000 kV. And you got these King Kong 41mm 3-bladed propellers. This is basically the same power setup that was on the Dust X58. I reviewed that a while back. That's what it looks like. But this has the 20,000 kV motors, not the 15,000 kV motors. So a little bit different power setup. It's got the same flight controller ESC combo. Looks pretty similar. It's got the same all-in-one FPV camera, but you can see the major difference here. It's much lower profile. You can look at the BWHOOP is got the camera much lower in the on the drone, so I think that it'll balance a little bit better. This one's a little bit top heavy, though it's not really noticeable, but I think that because it sticks out more, kind of has a tendency to snag on stuff more. I like the fact that it comes with this little vacuum formed canopy. Kind of protects the camera a little bit. It does prevent you from accessing the inside button there, but the outside button's okay. The inside button's just for PAL and NTSC switching. I think it's on PAL by default. So the flight controller ESC combo in here is the Tiny Fish. It's a little bit different version from the one that came from Banggood and on the Dust X58, but it's based on the same open source design, and it's a F3 flight controller with a built-in FreeSky D8 receiver and a 4-in-1 ESD, which is, I think it's a 1S and 4 amps only. So this frame design is a little bit different than the Dust X58. You've got a main plate, and then you got these little extension pieces to hold on the prop protector. This is a single piece here. It goes all around. It's very thin. You can see here I can easily bend it. It could be a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's if it bends, it'll give in a crash and not break right away. But in case of a crash, Boldclash does provide a kit where you have spare parts, and in here you have spare props. Got a bunch of spare pieces here. Maybe that's a camera mount, and it's the canopy. And they give you some spare carbon pieces. You got the little braces and the main plate and the prop protector. So you got some little hooks here for your rubber bands to hold the LiPo on. You got a looks like a micro low-C connector for the micro low-C battery on this particular model. It's just like the Dust X58. Okay, we'll go ahead and get a weight measurement. So this one comes in at about 22.1 grams, which is significantly lighter than the Dust X58, which came in at 25.2 grams. So this is quite a bit lighter for having the same, basically the same electronics. Obviously the motors are a little bit different, but you got the same, all the same electronics on the BWHOOP that are on the Dust X58, but it's about 3.5 grams lighter than the Dust X58, so I think this one should perform better than this one. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll bind this up to my Tyrannus. You have to press the bind button here while plugging in the battery to bind it up, and then also you have to plug this battery in to connect it to the USB port to connect it up to Betaflight configurator, and we'll take a look at those Betaflight configurator settings in the next section of this video. Okay, so we've got this hooked up to my computer. Let's take a look at what the settings are, and it looks like it's been flashed with the latest Betaflight from the factory. It's got the Tiny Fish flight controller, so it's good now to do any flashing. That's pretty nice. As expected, the receiver is on UART2. That's normal. D-Shot 600 is already enabled, so no need to change anything there. And the receiver is a FreeSky S-Bus receiver. That's correct. I'm going to change the FEBAT settings. I'm going to change that to 3.1 and 3.2. I don't think the current meter does anything, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to leave the gyro and PID loop alone, telemetry alone. This has a black box flash data. I'm going to turn that off. I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to be turning on air mode. There's no OSD, no LED strip. I'm going to leave telemetry on. Go ahead and reboot it. Under Failsafe, just changing the guard time, and I usually set my throttle to hold. Under PID tuning, this looks like default PIDs for Betaflight 317. Just going to change my super rate to 0.75 on the roll. I think that's pretty good. We'll just start on the receiver. Usually put in a deadband of 2. And my radio has, my Tyrannus has a channel map of AATR. You should check yours, make sure it's the same, and then once you bind up your receiver, you should check your channels, make sure that they're working in the proper direction, and reverse them if they're not. So under modes here, looks like they have stick arming, not switch arming, so I'm going to change my modes here. Aux 1, and I'll put angle on the 3rd position on Aux 1, and everything else will be, I'll leave alone. And I think that should do it.